Okay, per recommendation, Suzuka in a Miata. I don't think this will go poorly in any way whatsoever. I actually think the Miata is going to be a lot of fun here. Um, Light car on a pretty quick, pretty dynamic track. AI may be the biggest threat to me out here. Oh, just because we're dealing with a lot of small cars in this power to weight ratio, and I don't know. See, my driving skills really on display here, but that's fine. I can live with that because this Mito is having the worst of times. Just trying not to get rear ended by a Cobalt. At the end of the day, that's all anyone wants is to not get rear ended by a Cobalt. That's one of God's greatest mysteries, too. Why Cobalts rear end people. The guy's having the worst of times. I don't claim to know anything, everything. I don't claim to know. Fiat, okay. Here again. Cobalts just find their way to the back of things, and that's the right. They could do that. Strong, independent car. I think it's been a long time since I've seen a Cobalt that wasn't driven by a strong, independent woman, though, and that I won't say is a factor, but strong, independent women make their own roads, and that's, good for them. That's what the world needs is go-getters and problem solvers and yellow Miatas taking absolute dives. Good for that guy. It's such a weird spread, this power-to-weight ratio, and I can start, changing up my grid layout, because I am ending up with really weird matches if I stick with power to weight ratio. And this thing just, every time I think I should be downshifting, it ends up being the wrong gear. And I know that's not what you want in the Miata, because it's, 160 horsepower, the NDs. This is an ND, by the way, if you couldn't tell by the stupid touchscreen. That I don't know if it's actually a touchscreen in the Miatas. It's not a touchscreen in, the Mazda 3, but I should get one of those models, see if I can find a Mazda 3 Turbo. They call it the Carbon Edition or something. I think a fun little hatchback. I've tried one or two fun little hatchbacks on one or two fun little courses. Maybe like a Mazda on Fuji, like a Mazda 3 on Fuji would be fun. Just, quick little toss around, front wheel drive. I feel like that thing would be an understeer machine on those fast corners, though. I don't think I need to brake for this, but I will just a little. That same Mito is having the worst of times. Chicane's probably going to get me in the gearing, but I don't see it again just enough to work in second, but that's not too bad. I keep wanting to downshift just one more time in every corner. It's going to be the death of me, I swear. I'm either going to blow this thing up, or I'm just going to, I don't know, snap it into oblivion by throwing it sideways. I guess on a little chiller like this, I should give some context. Shout out to Ron if you're out here. Yep, there's the understeer. This is actually a pretty fun idea. I thought there's a red Fiat. I do love silly cars, not necessarily goofy, silly, I don't know, what's the little BMW or oh gosh, I think even a Mini Cooper is acceptable on a track like this. But I do love a little unconventional race. Maybe it's a slow car, maybe it's a car you don't normally think about, like a Honda E going around Monaco. Just something a little different. You see a lot of GT3, GT4, Formula 1 these days too. I have nothing against open wheel, and I have nothing against high stakes racing like that. I just love goofing around in, yeah, we all have the same thought. I saw that grass. I just love goofing around in a car that's, I don't know, built for something like this. Built for twisties, built for ripping up a little road course. Grand National is probably the funniest outlier I've got because it's a highway car. At the end of the day, true American power, very, very short gears, and love spinning its tires, but it's fun. It's interesting. And maybe one day they'll get into, I don't know, gets me because I always end up understeering into the hill. Usually slowing down too much coming out of it. That's just a trend with almost any car I get into. It's a funny little. I probably can't point to it. The little wing window bit there, right there. It's just funny in that view. Because it makes me think the mirror is wider than it should be. Well, toss. I can take that faster, couldn't I? If you couldn't tell, I'm an absolute amateur, as indicated by the fact that I am cooking the brakes off of a Miata. I'll take the penalty for that one. That one's on me. Get it down to 25, sure. 21. I do have tire wear on as well, just because I don't know how to disable it. It feels like cheating to me. So that's going to change the behavior as I toss this thing into corners. But I would love to really push some of these faster corners, because I am in a Miata, and, you know, what do you do if not send a Miata into a corner? That's what they're built for, quite literally. What was the name of that LWS, Lightweight Sport program? So for those that don't know, the NA Miata, and this is a little bit of a soapbox on me here. The NA Miata was a controversial program coming out of Mazda's research and development division. Love the understeer. Just makes every corner feel like work. Where am I going here? Yes, so the LWS program was Mazda's research and development division saying, hey, what do people like? Fun cars. What can we sell to people? Not fun cars. How do we make something that is affordable enough that even the Americans will want to buy it? Yeah, okay, good toss, good shift. How do we make something affordable enough that even the Americans are going to want to buy it? But like, there's the spin. We always knew it was coming. But light and fun enough that people who actually, you know, drive cars will enjoy driving the car. And hence, Miata. From what I've heard, it hasn't really bulked up over the years. Of course, it's gotten more horsepower, like NAs are something like 110, if that, which is a respectable amount of horsepower if you're 5'4" and 120 pounds. But as especially Americans, the largest car market in the world, get bigger every year, Miata needs just a little bit more horsepower. And it's funny because they've done quite a bit to jazz them up, to put a little smart into these things. But then they've also kept it very, very analog in other places. Oh, this corner every time. So, having not owned any generation Miata, and all of my knowledge coming from obscure parts of the internet, like, the touchscreen, or whatever that screen is, it still has the little dial that Mazda loves to put in their stuff. So having this screen in a sports car is so odd, because obviously that adds weight, it adds cost. I'm sending it, that is full power through the corner. Yikes. Okay. Yeah, but like, they still have, and not analog, but I think the speedometer, maybe the tach in the American version, is still like a real dial. When Honda, for instance, is going digital, the Prologue, and there's a number of companies that are aiming toward all digital, if not mostly digital, places you will notice. Mazda still has good old 6-speed gearbox. And I think Nissan, for instance, just put a manual in their last sports car. I mean, give or take. I think the new 400Zs, or whatever they're calling them, I think they had a manual option, but then they came out with one that was meant to be the fastest. You know, Nismo, they love putting that big badge on things. And it came with an automatic. And it's heavy. That's expensive. I mean, I haven't looked up the prices, obviously. No one spends their days just building sports cars on various manufacturers' websites. I totally do, but not knowing the cost off the top of my head, why would I spend 55, what was a Supra, 65,000 for the top trim? For a car that, living in the Midwest, you only drive a couple months out of the year. For a car that isn't really, I mean, not not that 400 horsepower in the 400Zs is a slouch by any means, but like you picture Mustang, 5.0 Mustang GTs putting out, hopefully in the 400 range. It's not a track monster. It's not gonna rip some crazy quarter-mile times, but they're quick. So you got 400 horsepower in this weirdly built, like 2 generations old sports car coming out of Nissan. And the last saving grace they could have had was to make it the most engaging driving machine they could, but they put a manual in it instead. Well, I love rotating on that corner. Let's see if I can measure this one. Always just a little too much throttle going into it. A little too little coming out. Sorry, soapbox over. I'm actually having a lot of fun with this car. I wish I wasn't so bad at driving, because it would be great to be, fighting up there with the pack and at least thinking about making some passes. Consider this my practice, I guess. But let's see if I can just toss it through here. Yep, there's the understeer. Okay, alright, so a little too much steering engagement, but not steering engagement, a little too much steering going into it. But that is still, like, this is a fun experience. And I know a lot of people who, whether it's older generation, NA, ND, Miatas, NA or ND Miatas, or people who get the newer generation NDs, and is an NA, ND there, but any generation of Mazda is fun. Some twisty back roads on a track like this, take it down to your local, whatever, course, just goof around, autocross has got to be great, and they're light, they're fun, that's what they've always been meant to be. And Mazda never changed that from what I understand. The new ones weigh very similarly, the overall size. They may have gotten wider. I think the NAs were tiny, tiny cars, but the NDs maybe a little wider, but front to back they're about the same. And it's still fairly affordable, I think, adjusted for inflation. Maybe not even adjusted. I don't know how the prices work, but again, I don't sit around building these things. You can get a very engaging sports car for not much more than crossover that your neighbor drives. Gosh, that was a little too low of a gear for that corner. Like, they're just such interesting cars for the money, and I realize I'm shifting for that corner, and I really should not be. And you still get a lot of engaging features. I know a lot of people are jonesing for the RF Miatas, the hardtop versions. I think the Miata is one of the very few cars that I would insist on getting, as much as I hate. Yeah, here we go. This is the controversial take. I hate convertibles. I really do. I understand where they're coming from. There's never a convertible, a soft top convertible that I would choose over a hardtop non-convertible. Now, I know there were some silly designs in the 2000s. I always think about the Pontiac G6 convertibles because it was, they took the coupe body, long doors, really boaty back end, and just made the hard top break into 3 pieces. It's a neat idea. Why would I choose that over a coupe? Right? Why would I choose that over just a 2-door car? Once again, I'm going to toss it here and just maybe a touch of lift for track limits, a little curve. That's not a bad corner. It's a lot of fun in this car. But aside from a Miata, almost specifically, I don't think I would choose a soft top convertible in just about any situation. This thing, you almost have to, A, for the culture, and B, wait, the cost savings. They're such interesting cars. Yeah, 17, the 20 I'll take it. They're just such interesting cars overall. In general, I'd say a lot of fun. No complaints from me.